So, have you ever been creating something, maybe a story, and you just stop and you realize the whole thing is kind of built on sand? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to look at the raw notes from a creator who literally tore their own world apart just to make it better. It really shows you that asking those tough questions, well, that's how you get to the good stuff.
And boom, this is where it all began, with this one single powerful thought. The creator looked at their main conflict and just went, wait a minute, just calling someone the bad guy? That's not a real reason. It's kind of lazy, right? It's a shortcut. And that one little idea, it triggered a total rethink of their entire world. So let's see how they pulled it off.
All right, so the story starts off with a super classic setup. You know the one. You've got two brothers from a fancy family. Matthias Mindblade, he's our hero. And then Razas, the villain. Nice and simple, good versus evil. But the creators started looking a little closer at this so-called perfect hero, this golden child, and realized, there's something not quite right here. Something's lurking just under the surface.
And wow, look at this. This is where the perspective just completely flips on its head. The second they started asking questions, our golden child hero suddenly looks more like an elitist tyrant. And we're not talking about a small tweak here. This is a total 180. The whole idea of him being a hero just falls apart.
And here's the laundry list of evidence the creator dug up against his own main character. Matthias isn't just a little flawed. His actions are downright hostile. He's running the supposed empire of light like a total tyrant. He goes after his brother's new family and business for no good reason. And get this, he's so awful that his own childhood admirer, Windwalker, has to literally escape his empire. Yeah, that's not a hero, that's a villain.
So that makes you wonder, right? If our hero is actually the bad guy, then what about the guy we've been calling the villain this whole time? And that question, well, it changes everything.
Okay, so let's flip the script. Let's talk about Razas, the brother who got slapped with the villain label, the black sheep of the family. Because once the creators started digging into his story, they found out that, well, his actions actually make a lot of sense. He's surprisingly sympathetic.
So just check out his journey. First, he gets unjustly exiled, kicked out of the family for something that wasn't even his fault. And does he go off and plot evil? Nope. He builds a new life, a whole new family, a successful empire. He literally makes something good out of a terrible situation. And then, who shows up? His brother, the hero, ready to mess it all up. You see? His anger isn't some generic evil thing. It's a totally logical reaction to being constantly attacked by his own brother.
And man, this quote just nails his whole vibe. It's got that cynical, sad, but totally understandable feel to it. This isn't your typical villain monologue, with the evil laugh and all that. It's the sound of someone who just feels like no matter what they do, the universe is stacked against them. And just like that, the story gets a whole lot deeper.
So, okay, this deep dive couldn't just stop with the main characters, right? The creator realized that if the central conflict has to make sense, then the entire world has to make sense. You can't have these huge, world-changing events happening just because of some, magic flute.
I love this. It's such a fantastic rule for any kind of storytelling. Big things need big reasons. You're not going to have a massive war with armies and empires clashing just because someone stole a magical trinket. It doesn't work. These things have to be about power or money or ideology. Real stuff.
And you can see that thinking right here, applied to the whole world. Look at the different methods of conquest. You've got Windwalker, who, remember, had to escape from Matthias's tyranny. She took her empire by force. That makes sense, right? It was probably a necessity. But then you have Turok and Matthias, and they build their empires using ideas. Right away, that tells you their whole approach, their motivations. It's a completely different ballgame.
Here's a perfect example of this in action. Why does this ruler, Turok, go after both brothers? It's not because of some ancient prophecy or a magic flute. Nope. The creator's logic is just cold, hard strategy. Turok's empire got so big and powerful that invading the other two just became the next logical move on the chessboard. His aggression comes from a believable place, which makes him a way scarier and more interesting villain.
So how did they do it? How did the creator take this simple good versus evil story and turn it into something so much more complex and interesting? What was the secret weapon? Well, it all boiled down to one thing: asking questions. Lots and lots of questions.
First things first, what's the rebellion actually about? If Matthias is leading this charge against his brother's empire, it can't just be because he's the good guy. What are they fighting for? What's the endgame? What's the injustice they're trying to fix? You gotta have a real reason.
Okay, next question.
What are the good and bad reasons for founding the empire? Because let's be real, no empire is ever purely good or purely evil. By asking about both sides of the coin, the creator forces themselves to ditch the black and white thinking. And suddenly, places like Matthias's empire get way more interesting.
And finally, you have to ask these questions about everyone. Take this minor character, Orbius. He helps Matthias. Okay, great. But why? What does he get out of it? What does he actually believe in? Every single character, no matter how small, needs a reason. Otherwise, they're not characters. They're just puppets moving the plot along.
And really, it all comes down to this one simple but super powerful idea. Things need to have valid reasons. That's it. Whether it's why a character is angry or why a whole nation goes to war, everything needs to be built on something that makes sense. It's the absolute foundation of good storytelling.
So when you strip away all the cliches, the lazy plot devices, all the easy answers, what are you left with? You're left with the fact that creating great worlds and compelling characters, it all comes down to having the courage to ask one simple question, again and again and again.
Why? Why is the hero doing this? Why is the villain so angry? Why is there a war? Why should anyone care? It is, without a doubt, the single most important question a storyteller can ever ask. And as we've just seen, it has the power to tear down a world and build it back into something you'll never forget.